The Pirate Bay is likely the most infamous website in the world ever since it launched. It's the top place to pirate movies, software, and games. Of course, this has enraged copyright holders and prosecutors who have been trying to shut down the site and punish pirates. Despite how many times they take it down, it's just a matter of time until this site is back up and running. You must be thinking that the key to solving the issue is addressing the root problem by taking down the founders. Believe us, the prosecutors have tried this. They chased the founders across the world, threw them in jail, and charged them with every copyright infringement charge, yet the Pirate Bay lives on. One of the founders is actually happy to do jail time in order to keep the Pirate Bay alive. Let's talk about how the Pirate Bay came to life, what happened to the founders, and why prosecutors have struggled to take it down. Looking back, the origins of the Pirate Bay date back to a Swedish organization called Piratbyran, which means the Piracy Bureau. The organization focused on legalizing piracy through political connections, petitioning, and lobbying. Most people at the organization felt that the information should be allowed to freely spread across the internet, and they questioned the idea of intellectual property. They believe piracy is helpful to companies because it gets expensive software and games into the hands of people who would have never tried it otherwise. Once they get addicted to this game or software, they are likely to actually buy it. They do have a valid point. Software like Windows, Adobe Creative Cloud, and even Grand Theft Auto wouldn't be nearly as popular as they are today without piracy. The line of reasoning was basically the framework of Piratbyran. In September of 2003, they decided to take it to the next level. 3 Piratbyran employees named Peter Sunde, Gottfried Svatom, and Fredrik Nij launched the Pirate Bay. The idea was inspired by BitTorrent, which made its debut a few years before this. Originally, the Pirate Bay was run out of servers in Mexico with the help of Gottfried's employer. However, it didn't take long for his employer to back off, so the founders were forced to bring the site back home to a basic setup. Despite that, it didn't take long for pirates to flood in. By the end of 2004, the Pirate Bay saw a total of 1 million users. As the site grew, the trio expanded their operations by getting servers and databases. The crazy thing about the Pirate Bay trio was that they didn't distance themselves from these activities by putting up a good guy persona to minimize trouble with the law. These guys were proud to enable free information sharing across the internet and had no intention of hiding. This attitude became extremely apparent to authorities after they sent out dozens of copyright infringement notices, which resulted in no action from the founders. The police tried to ignore this site for many years while the site continued to grow in popularity. The police then started receiving more pressure to take it down, and in 2006, they finally decided to crack down. The founders were aware of what the authorities could possibly do, but we are not sure if they anticipated the force at which the prosecutors would hit. On May 31, 2002, 65 police officers shut down their servers. None of the founders were arrested, but it was made clear that the site should not be restarted. As expected, the founders ignored these demands. They went ahead and got new servers in an unspecified location in the Netherlands, and the Pirate Bay was back up and running within just 3 days. These shenanigans actually led to more people using the website. The police raid became international news. Aside from driving more users, these news articles fueled an international movement amongst internet nerds. One hacker went ahead and hacked into Sweden's national police website and took it down. Just as the police website was restored, the government website was taken down. Clearly, these were extremely irresponsible moves, but they definitely made a statement. Some lawyers even jumped onto the founder's side. The lawyers accused the police of unfairly impounding every server inside during the raid, which weren't only responsible for running the Pirate Bay, but also responsible for running dozens of small websites and businesses. The lawyers also argued that the Swedish police didn't have justifiable reason to conduct a raid in the first place. The government, of course, denied these charges. The cases didn't really go anywhere, but the government had a nightmare dealing with all this unexpected negative PR. The thing is, most people have pirated media or software at some point during their lives. Statistically, 52% of online users have watched pirated videos, even though 59% of users are aware that downloading and streaming pirated videos is illegal. At this point, only a very small portion of people were willing to go out of their way to support the Swedish government's actions. And without large public support, the government couldn't just raid the Pirate Bay again because that would just increase its popularity even more. So, they decided to address the root by taking down the founders. On April 17, 2009, the three founders, Peter, Frederick, Gottfried, and the server provider, were found guilty of assistance to copyright infringement and were each sentenced to 1 year in prison. They were also ordered to pay a fine worth 30 million Swedish kronor, or $4.3 million US. The squad appealed the verdict, arguing that Sweden gave in to political pressure which decreased each of her sentences by a few months, but it increased the fine, which didn't really matter as they had no intention of paying it. In terms of the arrest, Carl and Peter didn't really resist much further, and they simply gave in, but the same could not be said of Gottfried and Frederick, who went on the run. Gottfried ran away to Cambodia, which had no extradition policy to Sweden. Despite the policy, the Cambodian police arrested him on August 30, 2012 and deported him back to Sweden. There's been some speculation that Sweden and Cambodia had an insider deal to extradite Gottfried. Just 6 days after Gottfried was arrested, the Swedish government announced a $400 million kronor grant for Cambodia. So, it is awfully suspicious. Once Gottfried was back in Sweden, he served his jail sentence at the Mary Fred prison, but the police didn't just stop right there. There, they also called on hacking and fraud charges, which led to a total of 3-year sentence. Eventually, in September of 2015, Gottfried was released, and as for Frederick, he was able to evade the police for even longer than Gottfried. He had fled to Laos or Thailand and built a life in both of those countries. This dual life resulted in him crossing the border on a regular basis, and during one of these border crossings in November 2014, he was arrested and deported. Fortunately for Frederick, his prison sentence was far less severe than Gottfried's, coming in at 10 months. Frederick actually claims that prison wasn't even that bad, and that it was well worth it for the Pirate Bay. Apparently, he was the only one in prison that was there for a virtual crime, so the guards weren't as tough on him. He said that he was able to smuggle in USB sticks with movies on them and watch them on his prison TV. He did miss his friends and family, but he received dozens of letters from fans of the Pirate Bay, which has helped him get through the 10 months. Anyways, now that all the founders were behind bars, the police could finally shut down the Pirate Bay once and for all, or so they thought. On December 9, 2014, the Swedish police raided the Pirate Bay once again and impounded all of their server computers and equipment. With the founders of the game, this must be the end, right? Well, it wasn't. Just 4 days after the Pirate Bay was taken down, a torrent site called ISO Hunt launched a website called oldpiratebay.org, which mirrored all the content on the Pirate Bay. This is when the prosecutors realized that they had lost the game forever. Here's the thing, Pirate Bay doesn't actually host any files themselves. Instead, they just connect peers from around the world using links. So, all the Pirate Bay is storing is links. The contents of the entire website can be stored within a gigabyte, if not less, and there are thousands of people making copies of the website on a daily basis. So even if authorities take down one copy of the site, it's not very difficult to upload a gigabyte of data to a new server and get a new domain. That's why it's impossible to truly take down the Pirate Bay. Considering this, prosecutors have basically given up on taking down the Pirate Bay, and there's simply no single person to hold accountable. In the meantime, copyright holders have shifted their efforts to working with internet service providers to get the internet to pirates. This has just led to pirates using VPNs. Anyway, as for the founders today, Peter went ahead and found a Patreon-type service called Flatter. Instead of donating to creators though, the service is used to donate to websites and projects that better society and reveal corruption like WikiLeaks. Aside from Flatter, Peter has also given several speeches and interviews regarding his various views on the world. Gottfried and Frederick, on the other hand, don't have nearly as big of a public image. In fact, they have no public presence at all, and they simply disappeared into the depths of the internet. After Frederick was released, he said he was going to get an IT job and settle in Laos, so that's presumably what he's doing. That's all for today's video. Do you guys think piracy is moral? Tell us in the comments section. Like the video if you have ever downloaded pirated videos or music, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you next time!